Have you ever stopped to think that what you've been taught about the world may be incomplete, or even wrong? The truth is that most people live trapped in a bubble of superficial information, while the most impressive details, the curiosities that really change our worldview, go unnoticed. And the worst part, many people don't even know that they're missing out on this knowledge. But today you're going to step outside the box. When you discover this hidden information, you'll feel like someone who finally found the treasure map in the middle of the crowd. Get ready. In just a few minutes, you'll see the world through different eyes, and you'll realize how understanding these hidden truths can even transform the way you live your day-to-day life. Are you ready to embark on this journey that only the truly curious dare to take? Imagine looking at the Burj Khalifa, the tallest skyscraper in the world, and trying to imagine 10 of them stacked on top of each other. Well, you would still only be as tall as Mount Everest. This curiosity makes it clear how nature, with its silent grandeur, surpasses the greatest feats of human engineering. And do you know what's even more interesting? Even those who have visited the Burj Khalifa are surprised when trying to visualize it. A good exercise for those who like visual challenges is, the next time you see a very tall building, try to imagine 10 of them stacked on top of each other. The mind loves to work with surprising scales. This comparison between Everest and Burj Khalifa makes us rethink what we consider big. Sometimes we are impressed by what is man-made, but we forget to look at what nature created millions of years ago. This curiosity also teaches us something powerful. Our achievements are grand, but there is always something even greater to be explored. And those seeking personal growth can use this idea as a metaphor. Your dreams should be as tall as 10 Burj Khalifas, at least. Writing this down on your goals board can be a fun and inspiring way to remind yourself. By the way, speaking of scale, have you ever noticed that the perception of grandeur changes depending on where you are? A building in New York City may seem normal compared to a mountain in Patagonia. This perspective also applies to life. Sometimes our problems only seem huge because we are so close to them. Taking a step back, changing the angle of view, can reduce the weight we carry. Interesting curiosity, isn't it? Now, speaking of places where size and isolation make all the difference, let me take you to an even more curious point. On the vast map of Asia, there is a spot so isolated that, to get there, you would have to travel hundreds and hundreds of kilometers away from any coastline. This place, known as the Point of Inaccessibility of Asia, is located in northwest China, in a region where solitude is practically palpable. It's funny, right? Just imagine, you, lost in the middle of nowhere, without even smelling the sea nearby. Those who enjoy exploring trails or dream of extreme adventures can be inspired by these stories. Starting with a trail in the interior of Brazil would already be an interesting workout. This isolated place teaches us something powerful about persistence. After all, reaching the most distant center of the continent requires planning, resilience, and a passion for the unknown. Just like in life, sometimes, to get where no one has gone before, we need to trek paths without many signs. This curiosity about northwest China may seem merely geographical, but it holds a golden lesson. The greatest treasures are hidden in places that few dare to reach. How about starting your own journey of discovery? A good starting point would be to practice activities that develop autonomy, such as hiking, orienteering with maps, or wild camping. Now, if this place already seems remote, just wait until you see how nature can surprise you even more, especially when we're talking about places where vegetation is almost non-existent. When we think of nature, we often imagine lush forests, full of life and cool shade. But did you know that not all corners of the planet follow this pattern? Oman, for example, is considered the least forested country in the world, with an incredible, or rather, minuscule 0.01% of forest cover. An impressive curiosity, isn't it? This fact makes us reflect on how the environment shapes the culture, economy, and even the lifestyle of a people. Want to understand this in practice? Study how the Omanis use water with extreme wisdom, a true lesson in survival in the desert. This scarcity of trees also teaches an important lesson: adaptability. In Oman, buildings, water consumption, and agriculture have had to reinvent themselves. Just like in our lives, we won't always have the ideal environment to flourish, but that doesn't stop us from creating our own oases. A great tip to bring this curiosity into your life is to plant a small vegetable garden at home, even if it's in a small pot. It's a symbolic way of showing that, even in arid lands, something incredible can grow. Now, if you thought it was strange to find a country with almost no trees there, get ready. Because sometimes even the borders between countries can hide stories as curious as these desert landscapes. If I asked you which country has the longest border with France, I bet you would think of Germany or Italy, right? But hold your curiosity. It's Brazil. That's right, France's longest border is not in Europe, but runs through the dense Amazon rainforest, passing through French Guiana. Who would have imagined that, on the other side of the forest, you would find a tropical France, full of baguettes and French accents? If one day you want to live this experience without crossing the entire Atlantic, the way is right there, in the north of Brazil. This unusual situation shows us how much the world is full of invisible connections that we never even imagined. We often think that cultural distances are greater than they really are, but all it takes is a map or a good curiosity to break down these barriers. To apply this in practice, how about researching more about overseas territories? An excellent starting point is to find out how citizenship works in places like French Guiana or Reunion Island. You will be surprised at how much more mixed the world is than it seems. And since we're talking about unexpected distribution, imagine if the world's wealth was divided equally among all of us? Well, this idea, besides being a provocative curiosity, holds some surprises that will leave you speechless. Now, pay attention. If the entire global GDP were divided equally among all people on the planet, each person would receive about $12,000 per year. It seems like a lot, doesn't it? Especially if we remember that this is 6 times greater than the current average income in Africa. This curiosity reveals one of the greatest paradoxes of humanity. Wealth is immense, but extremely poorly distributed. And do you know what's even more curious? Even in super-rich countries, millions of people live on the margins. It's worth reflecting. Wealth is not just what you earn, it's also what you do with it. This perspective opens space for an important question. What would you do with an extra $12,000 each year? Would you invest it? Would you study? Would you start a business? This is a great curiosity to start a personal growth plan. If you want a practical tip, start studying about financial education. Books like The Richest Man in Babylon and Rich Dad, Poor Dad can give you a powerful guide. After all, money can be divided unfairly, but the knowledge to manage it is available to those who seek it. And speaking of rules and different ways of life, did you know that in some parts of the world even traffic laws and citizenship conditions follow a rather unexpected logic? When we think of traffic laws, we immediately imagine strict rules that are the same everywhere. But just look at this interesting fact. In Costa Rica, it is allowed to run a red light at night, as long as the road is clear. That's right, they trust the driver's common sense. An approach that combines freedom with responsibility, right? If we stop to think, perhaps many everyday rules would work better this way. Less imposition and more awareness. A good reflection to apply is, in which areas of your life can you act more out of responsibility than obligation? And it doesn't stop there. In Bolivia, citizens who get married can vote before the official minimum age. It's as if the commitment of marriage grants a vote of confidence in maturity. An interesting fact like this reminds us that, in many places, maturity is measured by actions and not just by numbers. With this in mind, how about reflecting on how making commitments, such as courses, projects, or even a career change, can accelerate your personal development? To complete this series of curiosities, did you know that La Paz, the administrative capital of Bolivia, is the highest city in the world? The city is over 3,600 meters above sea level. Imagine having to live, work, and even run in thin air. And speaking of resilience, adaptation, and life surprises, the next topic has everything to do with this, but in a way that literally passes right by your desk. If you think all potatoes are the same, get ready for a fun fact that will turn your head upside down. Peru, a country so rich in history and culture, grows the largest variety of potatoes in the world, over 4,000 varieties. From purple potatoes to miniature blue ones, nature's creativity is jaw-dropping. And here's the thing. In practice, this means that each type adapts to different climates, altitudes, and needs. If you're feeling adventurous, many specialty markets sell some of these exotic varieties. Now, hold this. One of these Peruvian varieties has been chosen to be grown in space. Yes, in space. NASA, in partnership with international research centers, tested Peruvian potatoes to see how they would behave in extreme conditions. This curiosity shows how innovation sometimes comes from the simplest and most traditional things. A practical way to bring this idea into your daily life is to value natural solutions. Organic food, home gardens, sustainable practices. The future may lie in what our ancestors already did. And, speaking of the future, innovation and surprising discoveries. If you thought it was curious that a simple potato reached space, imagine what else is being prepared, here and beyond the stars, to transform our world. Now that you've discovered all this, tell me, how many times have you stopped to think about what's really happening around you? How many opportunities for growth have you missed simply by not looking more closely, by not feeding your curiosity? The question that remains is, what are you going to do with this new perspective you've gained today? Are you going to keep it to yourself? Or are you going to use it to transform your life and your path from now on? If you want to continue exploring these curiosities that most people ignore, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, each new video is a chance to think differently, learn what almost no one teaches, and get ahead.